The tight end is one of the most forgotten positions in college football, but if you have a good one, your team can have a major advantage over your opponent. I always enjoy watching what guys turn into big-time tight end prospects, and I think Penn State has the best guy in the country. Today we'll be talking about Pat Freiermuth, aka the best tight end in college football. Pat is personally one of my favorite players in the game, and I'm excited to tell you guys his story today. Nicknamed Baby Gronk, he has recently been compared to the likes of Rob Gronkowski and Hunter Henry, and he could be the first tight end taken in the 2021 NFL Draft. So let's figure out how that happened. But first, if you are new to the channel, please take a quick moment to subscribe. I make videos all about college football, and I really need your help to reach 6,000 subscribers by the end of August. I'm going to be turning on a ton of videos over the next few weeks, so be sure to turn on post notifications so you never miss another upload. Be sure to smash that like button if you enjoyed today's video, and drop a comment about who or what I should do next. Now let's get started with the rise of Pat Freiermuth. Pat was born and raised on the East Coast as he was a Massachusetts kid. He originally wanted to be a basketball player, and that was his dream for quite a while. He eventually decided to pick up football as well, and despite being one of the biggest and most physical players on the team, he never took up being quarterback. He instead played linebacker, running back, and wide receiver, but I have to reinforce the fact that his dream was to play basketball. When he eventually got to Nantucket High School, he starred on both the football and the basketball team, and he was by far the best athlete in the school. After his sophomore year, he transferred to a place called the Brooks School, where he would have a much greater impact than he could ever imagine. The Brooks School was so small that they didn't even have bleachers, and maybe 100 to 200 fans would come sit on the grass to watch. Despite the team winning 7 games the year prior, they were worried about having a small pool of players and were dealing with a concussion crisis, so they didn't know about the future of the team. Maybe the football program in his community was going to fail. Well, once Pat got there, it rejuvenated the program, and kids signed up just so they could play on the same field as him. The school has never produced a first-team All-American, yet alone an NFL player, but Pat, I think, is going to change that. The team ran a run-heavy offense, and he excelled as a run blocker and a pass catcher in the offense, otherwise known as a tight end in football terms. He did actually have to play quarterback one time though, because the starting quarterback went down with an injury before the season, and he was the best athlete on the team, so they put him at quarterback. Eventually, Pat became an absolute force as he not only rushed and caught touchdowns, but he also scored on the defensive side of the ball. One high school coach in the area said he never saw a kid dominate the field like Pat did. Not failing to mention, A.J. Dillon also played in that league. If you don't know who A.J. Dillon is, he was a star running back at Boston College over the past 3 years, and he's a rookie for the Green Bay Packers this fall. There's a really funny story. One time a cornerback lined up next to him and said, "Hey, you're playing for Penn State, right?" Kind of with a smirk and kind of being a little bit sarcastic. That next play, Pat absolutely drilled him, took the ball from him and scored, and looked back at him and said, "Yeah, the Penn State." One day, James Franklin's staff came to visit, and he became sort of a local legend. Penn State really wanted Freiermuth, and the staff came to visit, and eventually Pat would commit to play football for him. His basketball dream was over now, but it wasn't because he wasn't good enough. Pat played for the basketball team, and his coaches said there was no doubt he could have played D1 ball, but he had to give it up as his football career was too promising, and he could not risk getting injured. Because Mike Gesicki was the tight end going into 2017, Pat took an extra year to prep, develop, and get stronger, and he reclassified into the 2018 class. Not many recruits do that, but he ended up taking a prep year. According to 24/7 Sports, Freiermuth was a 4-star recruit, the number 9 tight end, and the number 1 player in the state of Massachusetts, and the 224th best player in the class of 2018. With Gesicki now in the NFL, Pat wanted to walk in and start for Penn State the moment he arrived in Happy Valley. Nearly 2 years after he committed, he finally joined the team going into the 2018 season, and he was going to get a chance to compete and play right away. He joined a loaded class that included 5-star recruits Justin Shorter and Micah Parsons, and they also originally had Justin Fields as well. Penn State was going into their 5th season under head coach James Franklin, and were led by senior quarterback Trace McSorley, and some thought the Lions would be able to make a run for the playoff this year. The Lions had lost Saquon Barkley, but Miles Sanders would come in and replace him. They lost Deshaun Hamilton to the NFL, but Juwan Johnson stepped up at wide receiver. So now, who was going to step up at tight end? Jonathan Holland was pegged to be the next guy, as he was named to the John Mackey Award watch list, and both Danny Dalton and Nick Bowers were ahead of him. Holland would lose his starting spot that season, and his scholarship too, after he got in trouble for driving under the influence. The Nittany Lions opened up the year against Appalachian State, where he would take overtime to win. I remember that being a really fun game. He caught his first pass the following week in their blowout win over Pitt. After 2 catches versus Kent State, Pat caught his first career touchdown against Illinois. Back home, everyone in town and at the Brooks School went nuts and the entire community rallied behind him. Pretty neat. In a city that is made up of almost entirely Patriots and pro sports fans, this team had now said that Pat came first, and a lot of them had converted into Penn State fans just because of him. In their whiteout loss to Ohio State, he would catch a season-high 3 passes for 44 yards and a touchdown in their heartbreaking loss. Penn State lost a weird game to Michigan State, and their playoff hopes were basically done at this point. Pat would catch a touchdown pass in both their wins over Indiana and number 18 Iowa too. Freiermuth quickly became the team's starting tight end, and he's actually becoming one of the best tight ends in the country as a true freshman. He caught a season-high 51 yards in their blowout loss to Michigan, and Penn State was in danger of their season falling apart. They rebounded and finished the season with wins over Wisconsin, Rutgers, and Maryland to go 9-3. They would get a bid to play in the Citrus Bowl against number 14 Kentucky, in a game that many thought Penn State would dominate and win. The Wildcats surprised everyone though, and finished their Cinderella season with a win, and Penn State would go 9-4 on the year. In that game, Pat caught his 7th touchdown pass of the season, which was near the top in the country for tight ends. On the year, he caught 26 passes for 368 yards and 7 touchdowns, as he started 9 of the team's 13 games. He had a mission going into the season, and he completed it. Going into his sophomore year, he was expected to become one of the best tight ends in college football and improve on his freshman year stats. Franklin was now going into his 6th year, and he needed to improve on his disappointing 9-4 2018 campaign. Sean Clifford was going to be the quarterback, KJ Hamler was the next star receiver, and they had a 1-2 punch of Journey Brown and Noah Kane at running back. Despite starting out ranked number 15 in the country, they were picked to finish 4th in the Big Ten East. Pat was named to the John Mackey Award watch list before the season, and he was ready to take over and dominate. They opened up the season with a win against Idaho, and he caught a pass for 25 yards. Week 2, he would have a career day, as he caught a career-high 8 passes for 99 yards and 2 touchdowns in their blowout win over Buffalo. He was kind of a non-factor in their close win over their rival Pitt, and in their 59-0 throbbing over Maryland. He caught a touchdown against Purdue, and helped lead them to a win over number 17 Iowa, before a showdown against Michigan. In what was one of the best games of the 2019 season, Michigan came back and had a chance to tie the game. But Ronnie Bell dropped the 4th down pass, and the Penn State Lions survived. Pat would catch a touchdown in that game, and a lot of people began to know who he was. In a revenge game against Michigan State, he caught 5 passes, and 3 of them went for touchdowns in their win. He caught a career-high 101 yards against Minnesota, but that game ended the Lions' perfect season to that point. After a close win over Indiana, Penn State would have a chance to make the playoff if they could just beat Ohio State. Pat caught 6 passes, but it wasn't enough to overcome, and they lost. They finished the season with a win over Rutgers, and then they ended up going 10-2. They got a bid to play Memphis in the Cotton Bowl, where they would not only win, but Pat had a legendary big hit on a defender. As a sophomore, he caught 43 passes for 507 yards and 7 touchdowns, as he was named to the Big Ten's All-Second Team. He started every game in 2019 and became one of the best tight ends in college football, but he would have to wait 1 more year for the NFL. At least that's what people thought. They ended up finding out, since he was technically 3 years removed from high school, that he would be eligible for the 2020 NFL Draft, but he decided to come back as he had some unfinished business. Going into 2020, Pat is looking as the best tight end in college football, and he could very well be the first one taken in the 2021 NFL Draft. I'm really excited to watch him this season, and I think he'll be a really good player in the NFL someday. The rumor is he wants to someday play for the New England Patriots, and who knows, maybe he really could be the next Gronk. Either way, it'll be interesting to see how it all plays out. I'm not really sure why I selected Freiermuth for today's video, but it was kind of a spur-of-the-moment decision, and I think he has a really cool story. Some people call him one of the best players the East Coast has ever produced, and I think he'll be a big-time name in just a few years. If you think Pat is good, enjoyed today's video, or just want to support the channel, be sure to smash that like button and let me know what you think down in the comments section. If you are new, I really need your help to reach 6,000 subscribers by the end of August, so please take a quick moment to click that subscribe button if you have not already. If you are still here, check out my video about the rise of Journey Brown and all my other 2020 college football star videos. Until next time though, peace.